Welcome everyone. Today we are going to learn about ATP driven pump. Now at first I want to mention that there are three major categories of transport protein is present. One is channels, second is transporter. Under the transporter there are uniporters, symporters and antiporters. And the third category is ATP driven pump. Now ATP driven pump contains four different class of proteins. One is called P class pump, V class pump, F class pump and ABC transporter. Now in this video we are going to learn about V class pump. Now let's talk about V class pump. Why it is called V? V for vacuoles. So this V class pump is found in vacuoles of plants and yeast. Not only that, this vacuole is also present in secretory vesicles. It is also present in the synaptic vesicles, where neurotransmitters are present. Not only that, lysosome and endosome contain this V class pump. Macrophage, that means another example of macrophage is osteoclast cell. So this is also a macrophage. Osteoclast cells contain this V class pump. Renal intercalated cells, that means in the kidney also this V class pump is present. So there is so many different positions where V class pump is present. Now what is the main function of V class pump? It actually transport. So V class pump only transport, remember this, only transport protons. No other ions are transported by this V class pump, only protons are transported. And what is the major function of this V class pump? It actually generally lowers the pH of this content. Like it could be vacuoles, it could be secretory vesicles or lysosome, endosomes or the osteoclast. So basically this is the positions where these V class pumps are present. This is the main function, only it transports protons and it lowers the pH. I'm giving one example, like here lysosomes. Okay, suppose this is the lysosome. Lysosomes also actually covered by plasma membrane. So I will draw the lipid barrier. So this is the lysosome. Suppose this is the lysosomes. So this is the lumen of the lysosome. Lumen of lysosome. The pH of this lysosome, lumen of the lysosome, remains very low, 4.5 to 5, so that lysosomal enzymes like protease, nuclease, hydrolases works at its best, because these enzymes works at lower pH. Now the membrane that is surrounds the lysosomes contain this V class pump. Now V class pump is actually multi-subunit proteins, but generally we call the portions that actually attach with the membrane is the V0, and the portions that actually present in the cytosol, suppose this is the cytosol, so this is called V1. It actually rotates and it actually transports protons. What happens here? Basically ATP is breakdown through this V1. So ATP breakdown occurs to the V1 to ADP and PI. It generates the energy, release the energy, and through this protons are actually transported. Ions are transported, or actually H plus ions are transported inside the cell, inside the lysosome. But one problem is that this V class pump actually electrogenic in nature. Electrogenic. Why it is called electrogenic? Because as it transports only protons, so inside of the lysosome will be positively charged, because protons are more present inside. And what will happen when protons moves inside? What will happen that outside of the cytosol, negative charge will be left behind. Negative charge could be hydroxyl ion or chlorine ions. So negative charge will be present outside the lysosomes, and that actually attract the positive ions and that prevent the further movement of hydrogen inside the lysosomes. Now, to overcome, so actually the pH will not be actually touched. The 4.5 or 5 pH will not be touched because the functioning of this V-class pump will stop as soon as more negative ions will be present outside and more positive ions will be present inside. So to generate this lower pH, these lysosomes and plant vacuoles actually also contain chlorine channels. Remember this. They also contain chlorine channel. Through these chlorine channels, chlorine actually also moved inside the lysosomes, and by this way negative charge actually removed from the outside. So the pH 4.5 or 5 is achieved. Now in this video I will also explain the physiologic role of or physiologic significance of V-class pump by these osteoclast cells. How this V-class pump in the osteoclast cells actually helps in our bone resorptions. Suppose this is the bone, and these osteoclast cells actually make tight seal with the bone. Okay. Now what happens? The net bone growth actually subsides just after the puberty, but one thing actually continues throughout the adulthood, that is called bone remodeling. Bone remodeling. Through this bone remodeling, basically what happens here? Bone formation and simultaneously bone resorption occurs. But net bone growth stops, subsides, but this bone formation and bone resorption continues throughout the adulthood. Now this bone remodeling helps in the repair of damaged bone, and through the bone resorptions, calcium and phosphate and other ions can be exported or taken from the bone to the blood to use in other parts of the body. Suppose this is the bone and this is the osteoclast cells. Osteoclast. This is one example of macrophage. Remember this, osteoclast. Now this osteoclast cells has the V-class pump present here. Suppose this is the V-class pump. So this is the V0 and this is the V1. Now this position of the cells actually make tight seals. It makes tight seal, and this position is called the extracellular contact zone. Extracellular contact zone. Here what happens, this through this V-class pump, protons, so ATP will be break down into ADP and PI, and protons actually move here. So protons will come into this area. Not only that, like the lysosome I have mentioned, in the osteoclast cells also chlorine channels are present, and through these chlorine channels, chlorine actually moves here. Okay, and that makes the corrosive hydrochloric acid. Also these cells actually secrete digestive enzymes inside here. So calcium, phosphate are actually released from this bone. This is called bone resorptions. So when body requires this calcium, phosphate in other parts of the body, then bone resorptions, through the bone resorption, this calcium, phosphate are actually extracted from the bones, and it is actually sent to the parts of the body where it is required. Now where from this chlorine actually coming? So for this there is a antipotar present in these osteoclast cells. This antipotar is called chlorine bicarbonate antipotar. Chlorine comes from outside to the inside, and that chlorine goes to this side, this extracellular contact zone. and as it is an antiporter, so HCO3 will be come out of the cell. Now, where from this HCO3 is generated? Basically, carbon dioxide enters into these cells, and this carbon dioxide actually reacts with hydroxyl ions, and that generates the bicarbonate. Now, where from this hydroxyl ions is coming? By the breakdown of water. I'm writing here, breakdown of water. The water generates H plus ions and hydroxyl ions, and H plus ions actually moves in this site, and hydroxyl ions react with carbon dioxide with the help of enzyme called carbonic anhydrase. Carbonic anhydrase. So as you can see, chlorine bicarbonate antiporter, then chlorine channels, and with the help of V-class pump, bone resorptions occur. So this is one example of this V-class pump, the physiological significance. Now, also in the renal intercalated cells, the V-class pumps actually secrete the protons to make the urine more acidic. It actually balances the acidity of our blood. Also in the macrophage, it actually maintains the pH of the cell. This is the main function of V-class pump I have mentioned here. And remember that V-class pump can actually multi-subunit proteins, but the portion that actually attach with the membrane called V0, and the portion that actually break down the ATP is called V1. And it is actually rotary ATPase. Rotary ATPase. So it breaks down ATP. Hope this video will help you. If you have any doubt, you can write me in the comment section. Thank you for watching, and always keep learning.